of you are struggling off that tee. So we think this is a big problem. It's time for Power of Three. What are the three things that you need to pay attention to in order for you to reduce that pressure off of the tee with the big stick? So we got to start with what it is that we are doing when we stand up on this tee, and we have to create the go-to shot. Now, what's the go-to shot? Well, for me, it's a little bit of a cut. For you, it might be a little bit of a draw, whatever. You have to understand that when you stand up on that tee, you have to have control over that golf ball. So let's go with a little bit of a cut because that's the shot that I'm going to hit. What I want to do when I'm hitting my go-to shot is I want to match up the movement of the ball to what I'm doing with the face of the club and the path of the club. So for me to hit a little bit of a cut, if you want to try to get control over the golf ball, the face of the golf club has to be a little bit open, and the path of the golf club has to be going a little bit to the pull side. So you have to break it down into first just creating this curve. How am I going to be able to create a cut curve? So what I want to do is I want to get this club face to get a little bit open. Now, there's a couple of ways that you can do this. The way that I prefer to do this is to get this feeling that the backswing is going to allow me to get full length, but feel that toe open up so that it's trailing the heel. And when I take the club a little bit outside, let my lead forearm rotate open just a little bit, so there's just a slight rotation going on in the forearm. Now the toe is going to set open, and now I'm going to be able to hit a little bit of a ball that moves to the right-hand side. We should get some R spin on this. So out and go. Now what will happen is that golf ball is going to start down the left-hand side. I need to open up that club face a little bit more, but I got a little bit more R spin. Now, do that again. Get a feeling of this opening up. That one only had 71 R, so we need to get a little bit more right spin. So I need to do this a little bit more, a little extreme. So now we go out here, same thing, out. And now I got a little bit more spin. You can see how this is curving over to the side. So what you're going to do is you're going to teach yourself what is happening with the amount that you're letting that club go out. How much do I need it to go out in order for me to get that spin? That one there had 1,000 RPMs of right spin. So I need to get somewhere in the middle there, between 71 and 1,000, and that's going to give me that little movement to the right. Now what I have to do is I have to teach myself how to let this path get to the left-hand side. So what is it that I'm going to do to let this club get over here? Well, that has to do with what's going on with my lead shoulder. So my lead shoulder, I'm going to feel my lead shoulder going down and around. That's going to take the club head, and it's going to throw it over the top. So this is going to start down the left-hand side there. So now what I do when I take those two things and I put them together, I get a little bit outside, I get a little bit of that lead shoulder, and I start to get my go-to shot, which was a little bit of a cut shot there, okay? All right, so that's the first thing we're going to do. The second thing that we have to do is we have to focus on what we're doing with the start line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the bar, and I'm going to set the bar down here, and then I'm going to clip this off, put it in there like that, let this go down. Now this is going to be the path that I want my golf ball to be going down, and what I want is I want that path to be just a little bit to the left of the target. So we open it up that way, and now what I'm doing is I'm focusing on getting this ball to start on the line that I want for that cut. So I'm imaging this, and this is something that Jack Nicklaus talked about. He said you go to the movies. What you want to do is you want to visualize yourself hitting that shot and seeing that starting. So you create this image in your mind. Maybe it's a goal post like this. Corey Pavin used to imagine a stick coming out of the ground, and he would move the ball around that stick. There are a lot of people that work with windows, but you have to use your mind's eye to be able to create this start line. And what I image in my shot is I don't really see the ball finish. I just see it start and curve in a certain direction. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get behind here. I've got that. Even what might help you is to create an intermediate target. That intermediate target might be just in front of the golf ball, 1.5 feet or so in front of the golf ball. So we get back here, line this up the way we want, and now all I'm doing is just focusing on getting this ball to start down that line right there, and then have a little bit of a cut to it. So that one there starts. It has exactly the line that I want, moves over to the right. So our second in the Power 3 is making sure that we use our mind's eye to get control over that start line. And when this pops back up, this is beautiful. Tom, can you give me a down the line shot? This is beautiful because what we're seeing is we see that ball curve, but look at the start line of the ball. It started right in the middle of this little gap that we created there. So we have to be able to do that. And then finally what we want to do, and we talk about this all the time, but it's never overstated. When you get onto the golf course and you get a little bit nervous, what happens to you is the fear starts to rise. Pressure creates fear, and fear is failure. What are we going to do? What's out there? Well, I could hit this out of bounds to the left, or I could hit it into the water on the right, or I could top it, or I could embarrass myself. I don't want to embarrass myself. All these things that you go through are all the things that you don't want to do, and fear all of a sudden overcomes you. It overpowers you. And what you have to do is you have to be able to push back with fear. Faith is the way you do that. And the way you do that is you get comfortable being nervous, having that pressure. And the way you do that is through routine. We'll talk about it a little bit later. As I said, we've got a U.S. Marine coming on. Plus, I'm going to share with you a book, which is a wonderful book by a Navy SEAL. Talks about the importance of being able to overcome this stuff. And routine is essential. Now, what you're doing in your routine is you're making a practice swing of whatever it is that you want to do. So my practice swing will be, let this club go a little bit outside, and then feel my lead shoulder going down. Then in my routine, I'm going to image that shot that I want to hit. Now I come into here with a certain number of steps, a certain number of looks, a certain number of waggles. For me, it tends to be 2s and 3s. So once I get into here, after I've had this third waggle, I've got my start line all figured out of what I'm trying to do. And now all I'm going to do is just make that motion. Trust it. Make that motion. Now what you can see is that golf ball is now starting down the line that I want. It's kind of going, fading a little bit over to the target. So that's a good one. So as we recap all this stuff, there are 3 things that you need to do to reduce that pressure, get comfortable with that pressure on the tee. The first one, well, obviously we have to have a go-to shot. So you have to be able to establish that go-to shot, whether it's going to be a fade or whether it's going to be a draw. Move the ball one way, get really good at doing that. Then, after you've done that, then I want you to visualize the shot that you see. What's the curve? Is it the start line that you're concerning yourself with? Do you want to get yourself this, or do you want to have one little pole sticking out of the ground? Whatever it is, you got to visualize what's happening with that shot. And then finally, what I want you to do is get into that routine. That routine doesn't have to be a slow routine. It can be fast. It can be one practice swing. You can get in here, one look, and go. But it has to be the same every single time. When you get comfortable doing that, what will happen is you'll reduce that pressure. You'll get comfortable being nervous. You'll be able to do away with all that fear, and you'll overcome, and you'll have success, okay? All right.